The images just came in from the Nordic Optical Telescope, and they've created a new crisis for anyone trying to explain Atlas as a natural comet. Atlas didn't break up. It's still a single intact body. 2 weeks after perihelion, after supposedly ejecting billions of tons of material through violent sublimation, it remains whole. And according to physics, that should be impossible. Let me explain why this November 11th observation just made the natural explanation mathematically untenable. Jewitt and Jane Luu, using a 2.56-meter telescope at La Palma, captured Atlas as a single body with no evidence of fragmentation. The images show the same elongated glow, the same anti-tail pointing toward the sun, that Hubble observed back in July. It looks almost identical, unchanged, intact. But here's the problem. Recent images from November 8th and 9th show jets extending 1 million kilometers toward the sun and 3 million kilometers in the opposite direction. Massive jets, enormous outflows. Material streaming in opposite directions across millions of kilometers of space. For natural sublimation, those jets move at about 0.4 kilometers per second, roughly the sound speed of gas at Atlas's distance. At that velocity, for jets to reach millions of kilometers, they must have been active for 1 to 3 months continuously. That means massive, sustained, prolonged outgassing over the entire perihelion period. Now comes the math that destroys the natural explanation. Loeb calculated the mass density of those sunward jets. The solar wind stopped them at 1 million kilometers out, which tells you how dense they are. The calculation gives a few million proton masses per cubic centimeter at that distance. When you multiply that density by the outflow speed, you get a mass flux of 5 billion tons per month per area of 1 million kilometers squared. 5 billion tons per month. That's what the jets require. To sublimate 5 billion tons of carbon dioxide ice, you need 3 times 10 to the 18th joules of energy. At perihelion distance, the sun provides 700 joules per square meter per second. Do the math, and you need an absorbing area larger than 1,600 square kilometers. That's the surface area of a sphere with a 23-kilometer diameter, 4 times larger than Atlas's maximum measured diameter of 5.6 kilometers from Hubble images. If it's water ice instead of CO2, you need 51 kilometers diameter, but Atlas is only 5.6 kilometers across, maximum. The surface area simply doesn't exist to absorb enough solar energy to sublimate 5 billion tons of ice. The physics doesn't work, the geometry doesn't work, the energy budget fails. Unless, and here's the critical point, unless Atlas broke into fragments. If it shattered into dozens or hundreds of pieces near perihelion, then the combined surface area of all those fragments could potentially absorb enough energy. Fragmentation solves the energy problem. Except Atlas didn't. Fragment. The November 11th images show a single intact body. No breakup, no multiple fragments, one object, still whole. This is the new anomaly. Atlas is exhibiting outgassing that requires either 4 times more surface area than it has, or fragmentation that didn't happen. Loeb puts it bluntly in his statement. This raises a new anomaly of 3I Atlas that must be explained by those who wish to shove the anomalies of 3I Atlas under the carpet of traditional knowledge on solar system comets, rather than consider alternatives. He quotes Einstein, "Knowledge is realizing that the street is one way. Wisdom is looking in both directions anyway. The natural explanation is a one-way street that leads to mathematical impossibility. The surface area doesn't exist. The fragmentation didn't occur. The energy budget doesn't close. So what's the alternative direction? Technological thrusters. If those jets aren't sublimation but exhaust. If they're directed propulsion rather than random outgassing, then the energy doesn't come from solar heating. It comes from onboard power. And the mass flux doesn't require impossible surface areas. It requires fuel and thrust. Loeb notes that thrusters pointing exhaust toward the Sun would accelerate Atlas away from the Sun. This is a post-perihelion maneuver. It's what a spacecraft would do if it wanted to gain speed rather than slow down through gravitational assist. The Oberth effect: fire your engines at closest approach to maximize velocity gain. Accelerate away from the Sun using solar gravity as a slingshot while adding artificial thrust. That's Orbital Mechanics 101 for interplanetary missions. And it's exactly what Atlas appears to be doing. The November 11th images don't just show Atlas intact, they show it with the same anti-tail morphology, the same sunward-pointing elongation that defied physics back in July. Nothing's changed. The anomalous behavior persists. And now we know it persists without fragmentation, without the escape clause that would have saved the natural explanation. This is breaking news because it closes a door. The maybe it broke up into fragments possibility, gone. The maybe combined surface area of pieces explains the energy budget option, eliminated. Atlas is one object exhibiting impossible outgassing for its size without breaking apart. Natural comets that sublimate 5 billion tons of material don't remain intact. They fragment. They shatter. They break into pieces that then sublimate separately. Atlas didn't. It's whole, still one body, still exhibiting the same anomalous jets, still pointing material toward the Sun. The images are official. Nordic Optical Telescope, David Jewitt and Jane Luu, both highly respected observational astronomers, published data, not speculation. Atlas remains a single body despite outgassing that should have fragmented it. The math doesn't work for natural sublimation. The energy budget fails, the surface area doesn't exist, and the alternative explanation, technological thrusters, fits every observation perfectly. This is the anomaly that the establishment has to address. You can't ignore surface area calculations. You can't hand-wave energy budgets. You can't pretend the fragmentation that should have happened doesn't matter when images prove it didn't occur. The street goes one way, toward natural comets, and it dead ends at mathematical impossibility. Wisdom says look in both directions. And in the other direction, the one that makes establishment scientists uncomfortable, the explanation actually works. Breaking news: Atlas didn't break up. And that might be the most important observation yet. Stay tuned. Because December 19th observations are coming, and they'll measure jet composition and velocity directly, potentially closing this case once and for all.